So in this first class, we will introduce the course content and the basic definition of probability, that why do we need a mathematical framework to study probability. So course content website is this one, and the lecture will be available at the Mookit. About probability, why do we need to study it? We have seen probability in some form. For example, life and even our environment are certain. Right? Every day things happen which we do not know uh, by certain that this will happen or not. So when we want to design a system, people talk about how do we understand this uncertain scenarios. So if something is not guaranteed to happen every time, what we can say about this? So one common analysis method is to just talk about long-term averages, that which we call probabilities. It's like if you do this 10 times, 6 times this happens. So, or if you keep on doing something, this is the amount of money on the average you will win. Another problem which we face in engineering is how do we understand, how do we decide under uncertainty? So if you have a system and it has to make a decision, but the input parameters are not always fixed, the behavior keep on changing, then we evaluate this decision based on its average performance. Right. So basically, we say that optimizing the average value of the result of the decision. So you make a decision and then you evaluate that over all the uncertainty, what is the average profit or average loss you get by doing this, by going with this decision, and then you decide the best. Then you take the best decision, which will optimize your system. And there can be, of course, some risk constraint also, that you want to maximize your gain, but of course, you don't want your loss to ever exceed a certain point. So you want to keep the risk at max up to this level, and then you want to optimize your profit. So these kinds of applications comes under probability theory. First is there are two important things to remember when we talk about probability theory. First is we want to understand those experiments where outcomes are not fully predictable. You cannot guarantee that this outcome will happen. But also another condition applies, that still it need to exhibit some regularity when observed many times. If you do some experiment and observe many times and there is no guarantee that at least half of times this happens, right? There's no regularity at all, then it's not possible to model such systems. So so these are two conditions where probability theory can be applied. So I'll just give a brief history of probability. That it started with a game of chances. So these games are the games which depends on some kind of random events for the decision. So a pair of throwing a pair of dices, where winning is decided by the fact that the total number. Uh, so if the first person has more number in his dice, then he will win. So these are games of chances, and people have been very much enthusiastic about understanding how we can win this game of chance, right? So in short, probability theory comes from gambling. People want to understand where they can win such random events, and that is how the whole theory was motivated. So first person which gave a systematic treatment was Cardano. He was a gambler. He was also a mathematician and a famous physician. But he was very famous for his gambling. He used to win a lot of money, and that is why he decided to give a systematic treatment of probability for the game of chances to maximize his winning. Then the first fundamental treatment comes from Pascal and Fermat. So there was a exchange of letters between these two mathematicians to understand how to divide the stakes. So the problem was like this: there was a game where you have to two person were throwing pair of dices, and the first person who wins 10 rounds, right, he will win. So the question was asked that that is fine, but what if the game ends before a winning is decided? So suppose 10 wins were required to win, but only seven tosses happened. One person won six tosses and another person win one toss. So in that condition, how should we divide the betting money? Right. So it can be understood the person who won most rounds should be given more money, but how to divide the money equally, how in a fair manner, that is the problem. So the question was actually post Pascal, and then he discussed with Fermat about this problem, and the result was a detailed discussion which formulated the very fundamentals of probability theory. So after then, Christian Huygens wrote the first book on probability. In 18th-19th century, there was a lot of work on the probability theory, mainly driven by Jacob Bernoulli, Laplace, and Poisson, and Gauss. So Laplace actually not just understood it in the mathematical, but it also applied to many engineering problems. And he gave the classical interpretation of probability, which I will cover later on. In the 20th century, finally, Kolmogorov gave the axioms of probability. So these axioms define what is probability, and this definition was precise enough for use in mathematics. Okay, but it's also comprehensive enough to be applicable to a wide range of phenomena in the practical scenario. So with this right balance of probability theory, this was it was possible to apply it to many practical scenarios and engineering scenarios. And still, we even in this course we will start with the axioms of probability. So what can be the application for this course? So if we understand how to apply probability theory to problems, the applications can be in engineering. So communications, when you transmit a signal, it goes through many random phenomena. For example, there can be noise, there can be random fading, which can change the signal. If we want to understand and analyze these signals, we would need probability theory. Signal processing also deals with mitigation of noise, where do you need probability theory to model this noise? Queen theory, which is applied in cases where there is a service and there are customers coming and their arrival can be random. To understand what should be the capacity of the system, what will be the average delay time, you would need a probability model. And this model is also applied to computer systems, for example, to model traffic or to model buffers at a base station. Under uncertainty also, how do we allocate a resource or how we make a decision? That is where the probability theory can be applied. To understand the reliability of a system, where it fails for some scenario, if we exactly know what is the chance those condition occur, then we can compute the reliability of the system. In statistics also, when we talk about how we can organize the data and how we compute inference from the data, there this theory can be applied. Machine learning, optimization, all deals with probabilistic models and their uh, inference from them. In physics, we talk about statistical mechanics, thermodynamics, And many such applications, quantum theory, where probability theory is the major driving force. Computer science, there are algorithms which are not deterministic but randomized. Uh, to study those, to study in bioinformatics, these probability theory can be used. And of course, it has a major application in economics and finances, where people talk about investment and insurance risk assessments. So we know that even in starting, game of chances and winning in a gamble was the main driving force to derive this probability theory. And even now, it has a major application where people want to understand and manage their risk and money in terms of uncertainty of markets. So, what is probability? So, uh, we now have some clear idea what probability is, but uh, in the to understand how we come to this definition, I'll give you one example. So there is a dialogue about to understand what is uncertainty means and what does probability means. So they in a hospital, a patient is administered a drug, uh, and there is a concerned relative who want to understand how much this drug will help. So he, of course, goes to the nurse and asks, nurse, what is the probability that this drug will work? Now, this relative is you can think it's like a mathematician. He want to understand exactly in some numerical values what will be the uh, benefit of this drug. But nurse, just by experience, just she says that I hope that it works. We will know only tomorrow. So relative want to insist again, yes, but what is the probability that it will work? He asks the question again. And the nurse says, see, each case is different and we have to just wait. Now, the relative just wanted to know this, so he asked in a different way. See, let us assume there are 100 patients that are treated under the similar condition. So, how many times would you expect it to work? So, he thinks that if 30% can be cured, then 30% would be the chance. But nurse just said, I told you, every person is different. For some it works, for some it doesn't. And she doesn't know exactly uh, what would be the chance for a normal person, right? So this normal is not defined because every person is different. So now the relative again formed a different question. Then tell me, if you have to bet whether it will work or not, which side of the bet would you take? So nurse said, okay, now I understand this question. So she, of course, thought the drug is helpful in more cases. So she said, I would bet it would work. Now the relative again wanted to know exact quantity. He asked, okay, now I understand this. Now tell me, if you are willing to lose $2 if it doesn't work and gain $1 if it does, what will you do? See, so in the first question, he say if the bet has same number and whether you win or not, of course, the higher chance, whatever that will, you will bet on. But now asking this question, you are making sure that you will lose a lot if it doesn't work. So if you lose your bet, you will lose a lot, and that changes your betting strategy. So nurse is really frustrated, and she said, "What a sick thought! Do you want to bet on these things? You are wasting my time." Right. So of course that is a response you can expect. She doesn't understand why these questions are made, but we will now see how these kind of questions can exactly tell us the efficacy of a drug. So I'll talk about three interpretation of probability. The first is a classical interpretation. So this was given in the starting, and it is thought that if you do an experiment, you divide all the outcomes into equal probable outcomes, right? So you find divide this into suppose four outcomes which are equal probable, and then you can say that each of this set is 1 by 4 uh, there is a probability of 1 by 4 that that outcome will occur. Okay, you can take a dice example. So there are 6 faces, and then so all 6 faces are equally probable. So you can say each face will be 1 by 6 probability. Now someone asks you what is the probability that there is an even number. So you will say the even number will come, which is 2, 4, and 6. So probability would be 3 by 6. There are 3 outcomes which are in favor out of 6 outcomes. The probability is 3 by 6. So this is what we have been doing in high school maths also. Now the limitation is that you should be able to divide all outcomes into equally probable outcomes. What if all the basic outcomes are not equally probable? There is no way to arrange them such that you can say these outcomes are equally probable. The another definition is a frequency interpretation. If you're not able to do this, the first one, repeat the experiment multiple times, suppose 1,000 times, and then collect that how many times a particular outcome has happened. Then the frequency would be will tell the probability of that event. Right? This also works. Only problem is many times you cannot repeat an experiment. Okay. Uh, So the third question third interpretation will be subjective belief. Many times probability just means an expert opinion, right? You do not know what is the chance this will work or this will not work, so you go to an expert, and there the expert opinion means how much he can bet on a side, and that will tell his confidence on the chances that it will occur, and this will give you a kind of uh, uh, quantitative measure to for probability. So if something has expert can bet a lot, it means it has a higher chance of happening. Of course, the betting is integer number or some real positive number, so it is not between 0 to 1. While the frequency and the previous uh, interpretation, they were both between 0 to 1. Where math will be used in these models? So we will see that probabilistic analysis is mathematical. It will require rigorous tools. But still, the intuition is required. It will dominate the whole framework. We will require intuition to define models, to analyze them, and eventually guide the math. So one of our goals would be how we can build intuition. And the second would be to note that problem formulation in terms of probability is typically more challenging than the calculations itself. So solving it is another thing, but it is rather simple than the first problem where we have to build these models. So another goal of this course would be to build modeling skills, and that requires a lot of practice. So first thing I would cover that why do we have to build intuition? So it's said that intuition is intuitive, right? But I will show that by some of the examples that intuition doesn't always come that easy. So let me start with a simple question. Suppose Mr. Smith has 2 children. The older child is a girl. What is the probability that both children are girls? And we all know, we will assume that for any child, the probability that it's a girl or a boy is equally probable. So what will be the probability that both childs are girls when we know that older child is a girl? So answer would be 1 by 2 easily, because the older child is girl and the second child is independent of the first child gender. Because of equal probability, the second children would be girl with probability half, which means both children will be girl with half probability half. So this is rather easy. Let me ask you another question. Mr. Smith has two children. At least one of them is a girl. What is the probability that both children are girls? So what will be your answer? So answer here is 1 by 3. Just by changing a simple sentence, the answer would change to 1 by 3. Many people will argue that why does it matter whether the older child is a girl or the smaller child is a girl? But you can, when we mathematically solve it, we see that there are four cases. Either both are boys, first is boy, second is girl, first is girl, second is boy, or both are girls. And they are all equal probable events. So each will have 1 by 4 probability. Out of this 4, only last 3 are there where both children are girl. Sorry, last 3, they only last 3 were there where at least one of them is a girl. And out of these 3, only the last one is the case where both are girls. So probability would be 1 by 3. Let me ask another problem. This is known as Monty Hall's problem. I'll first explain you what is the scenario, and then there will be a question. So suppose you are on a game show and you are given the choice of 3 doors. Okay, so you may have seen this game. There are 3 doors and you choose one door, and the goal is that there is something behind one of the door, and the goal is to choose that door. If the door opens and whatever is behind that thing, you will win. Now out of these 3, there's a car behind one door, and the rest 2 door there is just code, which means you will win nothing. Now you are given the choice of 3 doors and you have to choose one. Suppose you pick a door number 1, right? And the host, he knows basically what is behind the door. So he knows which one has car. Now he opens another door, right? So you choose one and there are 2 doors left, and the host opens another door, number 3, and there is a goat behind it. Now he asks you, so you choose one, he opens another door, suppose 3, and there is a goat behind it, and then he asks you, now you have 3 I have opened, now there is a 2 number, gate number 2 and gate number 1 you have already selected. Do you want to switch or not? So do you want to pick the door number 2 or you want to stay with your door number 1? So what will be your choice? Would you switch or will you not switch? So most people say that how does it matter whether we switch or not? There is equal probability behind this door. So the chances of winning doesn't change by switching the door. But that is not correct. The answer here can be simply understood by making a table. So there are 3 possible outcomes. Either there is a car behind door 3, either there is a car behind door 2, and or door 1. So let's take the first case where there is a car behind door 3. You have selected one, right? Now the host will open the door number 2 because there is a car behind door number 3 and he has to open one door other than 1. So of course he will not open 3, he will open door number 2. So you have 1 and the closed door is 3. If you switch, you go to door 3, you will win. If you stay, you will win gold. Similarly, take the another case where the car is behind 2. In that also, you have selected the first door. Host will open gate number 3. In that case also, if you switch, you will win. And the third case where car is behind the door you have already selected, door number 1. Now in this case, host can open either 2 or 3. Let's assume he opens door 2. Then if you switch, you will lose, and if you stay, you will win. So you see, out of 3 cases, you will win in only one by staying with the originally picked door. But if you switch, your winning chances will be two-thirds. So the strategy here would be to switch because that will make sure your chances of winning is 2 by 3 compared to the current winning which is 1 by 3.
In this video, we learn about Bertrand's paradox, which will show us that intuition does not always lead to correct computation of probabilities. And we require a more mathematical foundation, a more solid mathematical foundation to compute exact probabilities. So our problem statement is like that. We consider a equilateral triangle inscribed in a circle of radius r. And then we choose a chord randomly. Right? So a chord of the circle is chosen at random. And then we need to calculate the probability that the chord length is longer than a side of the triangle. So this is an equilateral triangle, so all the sides are same. So if there is a circle and then there is a equilateral triangle, and we choose one of any chord in this circle uniformly at random, then what is the probability that chord length is longer than the side of the triangle? Start with, we will fix one endpoint. We will show later that selection of this endpoint is not going to change the final probability. So this endpoint can be taken at any corner of this triangle. Once we take this endpoint, we can draw many chords from these starting from this endpoint, and the other endpoint will be somewhere on the circle. If you draw a tangent at this point, we will see that each of the chord can be represented by an angle theta. And then the theta minimum value can be 0, which will correspond to very small chord uh, of almost length 0 in the left direction, and then theta equal to pi will show the other chord again of almost 0 length in the right direction, and the rest of the chord with any theta between them will give the different chords. So the total angle is actually pi, and each of the chord, for example this green chord right now, can be represented by an angle theta. Each of these chords can be represented by an angle and different angles. Okay. So now we see that if we have to pick a chord, we can equivalently say that we have to pick an angle. And once we say that angle is picked, it means that particular chord has taken. And then because the total angle is 180 degree, now we have to compute the probability that what angle corresponds to those chords which are in length longer than the side of the triangle. And if we can compute that angle span, we would be able to compute the probability. So if we see carefully, we can see that if the chords are taken in this angle span, which is of 60 degree, then all the chords in this will have a length longer than the side of the triangle. This is pretty much clear from this picture. And if I take instead the chords in this angle span shown in the green here, all the chords will have a length smaller than the triangle side. And same is also true from the other side of the triangle. So if we want to compute the probability of this, we just need to calculate the probability of selecting a theta in this angle span. If you recall, the total angle is pi, and this particular angle span is 60 degree or pi by 3. So probability of selecting a theta inside this angle span is nothing but pi by 3 by pi, which is 1 by 3. So this will be the probability of selecting a chord longer than the side of the triangle. And then if you recall that we have fixed the endpoint at the corner of the triangle, suppose we take the endpoint at some other location. This is not going to change anything because we can just rotate the triangle, and it's not going to change the property because the triangle lengths are still the same. Similarly, we can take this endpoint anywhere on the circle, and all the probability will always be same. It will be 1 by 3. So the total probability of selection is also 1 by 3. So we saw that this probability is 1 by 3. We will recompute this by another approach. Let's call this approach 1, and hopefully the other approach will also give the same answer 1 by 3. So instead of taking a fixed point, we can also take a fixed orientation. So suppose I fix the orientation, which means I'm only going to take chord in this particular direction. So this will be nothing but the tangent to the circle, and if I'm going to pick chords in this particular direction, I can arrange them in uh, as per the distance from the center. So the way I'm going to pick this chord is, first I'm going to draw the radius which will connect this tangent point to the center. Then I can pick any point in between and make it at the center of the chord. And this will uniquely characterize the chord, right? So if I look at this chord, it has a particular center which will fall on the radius. And if I fix that point, I am actually base fixing the chord. Similarly, I can take different chords by just choosing different center points. Now, how do we characterize these chords, right? For example, if I take this particular green chord, this can be characterized from the distance from the center of the circle. So if the distance I fix as d, I am basically fixing the chord, right? Because the orientation is already fixed, so there is only one chord at this particular distance. You can see I am leaving the other half of the circle because that is just symmetrical. So now each of these chords can be represented by the distance from their center. Now we only have to calculate that what are those distances which will correspond to chords which will have length longer than the side of the circle. Total radius span, you can see, is r, right? So the maximum distance a chord can have is r, and the minimum distance it can have is 0. So in 0 to r distance span, I need to calculate what distance span correspond to those chords which have length longer than the side of the length, and then the ratio will just give us the probability. So now you can easily guess that if I take any chord which has a center distance less than this r by 2, this will have a length longer than the size of the triangle. Similarly, all the chords which have a distance longer than the r by 2 will have a length smaller than the distance of the triangle. So that this span is r by 2 while the total span is r. So the probability that you will select a distance which has a distance spans in 0 to r by 2 will be nothing but just the ratio, which is r by 2 by r, which is equal to half. So this is surprising because we were expecting 1 by 3, but instead we got 1 by 2. So let's call this approach 2. Now which one is correct? We do not. So to know further, we can actually look at one from one more perspective, and we hope that it will confirm either of these choices so that we can know which one is correct. In the third approach, instead of fixing the orientation or the endpoint, we are actually going to characterize the chords by their center points. So I'm going to place the center points first, and from that I will fix the chords. So how can I place the center of chords? I can just take a random point and draw a chord from that. So this will with a center at that particular location, and this will again uniquely characterize the chord because by fixing the center point, you can only draw one chord from that. Similarly, all these chords can be drawn by placing their center chords first. Now our problem reduces in how can I place this center chord such that the chords will corresponding to that center point will have a length longer than the side of the triangle. So let us draw a circle inscribed in this triangle. The radius of this circle will be r by 2. By looking at the picture, you can convince yourself that if the center of the chord falls inside this circle, then it will have a chord length longer than the side of the triangle. Instead, if they fall outside this inner circle, they will have a chord length smaller than the triangle side. Now we only need to calculate what is the probability that the center randomly chosen will fall inside this inner circle. And we know that if we are selecting a point in a 2D region and we are interested in what is the probability that a point in a subset will be selected, we can compute that by computing the ratio of the area of the two regions, because picking a point is proportional to the area. So the ratio between these two circles is 1 by 4, because inner circle has a radius r by 2 and outer has r, so the ratio is 1 by 4. So this should be the probability of selecting a chord having a length longer than the side of the triangle. Now we were expecting to get an answer 1 by 3 or 1 by 2, but instead we got another answer in this third approach, which is 1 by 4. So now the question remains, we got 3 answers, each of them looks correct. So which of these are actually the right one? And in fact, it turns out that we cannot tell which one is the correct one by just from our intuition. We require a solid mathematical foundation. Then only we can define what these probabilities mean, what the randomly choosing a point means, randomly choosing a chord means, and then only we will be able to tell which one is the correct answer.
Dear class, welcome to the course E621, Modeling and Analysis of Random Signals. So on the top, I have mentioned the course website address, which you can go, and this document you can find there. So in the first session, I'll go through the logistic of the course and the general syllabus. So this will have, in the schedule, it has 2 lectures, and they will be but they can be divided into multiple short lectures. They will be pre-recorded and will be released on the MOOCit. We have a discussion class where you can join the live session, and we can have some question answers. This will be on Wednesday from 12 to 1 p.m. This is a 9 credit course and will go through to the full semester. In office hours, my office hour will be in the discussion class itself, and in case we need more time, we can of course schedule more live sessions depending on the need. We will have 4 teaching assistants. The name is given here, so you can contact them also in case of any query. They will be helping me in the grading and of assignments and other course logistics. So let's come to the objective of this course. The main focus would be to strengthen the mathematical foundation of probability. So in the engineering application, basically to electrical engineering and also related to mechanical and other engineering aspects, probability plays a crucial part in any mathematical frameworks. So this course will provide a solid mathematical background, how we can model and analyze such kind of stochastic models. And we will of course keep signal processing and communication in mind. The course will be divided into 2 parts. In the first part, I would discuss probability space, random variables, transformations, conditional distribution, and estimation of random variables. Some of this you may already know, so we will try to keep the discussion to that level. And the second part will extend the theory you have learned to random vectors, random processes. Okay, and we will also in the random process we will also study Markov chains, and we will see the application of random processes to into the linear systems. The idea is that after this course, you should be able to use this course into your own research and different application of engineering related to your field. The recommended books the books I would follow is first one will be by Papulis. The name is Probability, Random Variables, and Stochastic Processes. Second book is from Booth Isaac on an exploration of random process for engineers. This book is all available online. And then, of course, the most important will be class notes. You will be given slides and also the video lectures, and that will cover almost all of the content. Okay, for questions and something, your assignments will also be given, but you can also explore other books related to probability and similar content you can find. The course, let's come to the course policy. Assignments that will be carry 30%. Okay, and just to note that assignments may contain some programming or coding task. So they will be in MATLAB, and which is of course available by IITK free of the cost to all the students. One thing is important is use of unfair mean is not allowed in any case. For example, if you take help from your friends in your assignments or by discussing in a group, you must write the name of everyone in top while submitting the assignment. This will not affect your grade just because you took help from others, but make sure you write assignments by yourself. So all the problems must be solved by yourself, not copied from others, but some kind of discussion is allowed, but that need to be disclosed. Exams and other places also, the any unfair means will not be tolerated, and if we will try to check assignments and exams also for possible copying or use of unfair means, and if found, you can get a fail grade directly. Now let's come to the course content part. This is a tentative list which we will follow. There may be some slight deviation from this. I'll start from introduction to probability. Then we will review some set theory, reanalysis, and some fundamentals that may be required. We come to the cardinality and countability of sets. Then we will formally define the probability space, which will cover discrete probability space and continuous probability space. Then we will talk about conditional probability and independence of events. Then we will introduce random variables, and we will define continuous and discrete random variables. We will talk about how we can compute distributions of these random variables in terms of CDF and PDF/PMF. We will define what is random variable transformation, how we can define functions of these random variables and can compute their distributions. We will have measures of random variables, how we can characterize these random variables in terms of expectations, variance, and other measures. We will talk about conditional expectations. We will talk about then another way to characterize random variables in terms of characteristic functions or a moment genetic function MGF. Then when we have a sequence of random variables, we can talk about if this sequence converges. So this will be covered in convergence of random variables. Then the summation of identical distributed random variables, it can be shown that they follow a law that will be covered in the law of large numbers and central limit theorem. When we do not know about the distributions of random variables, then we can uh, try to find a bound over those distributions, which will be covered in the concentration inequalities, which can be helpful when we study some stochastic algorithms convergence or performance of a stochastic algorithms. Then in the second part of the course, we will talk about random processes. We will define what the random process is. We will give some examples of it and a way to measure these random processes. Then we will talk about some properties of random processes, and then we will cover a special example random process, which is discrete time Markov chain, which is useful in many engineering applications. So this is the tentative course content.